Hello and welcome to the Divine Renovation Podcast, where we seek to inspire and equip you to bring your parish from maintenance to mission. My name's Dan O'Rourke, and we are back. We're back in studio after a summer of summer shorts, and it is so exciting to be back. And we're also live. So we're live. All of our goofs, our gaffes, our misspeaking is all going to be built into this episode for something that is sure to be epic. So along with me, I've got my buddy, Ron Huntley. Good to see you, Ron.
It's great to be here, Dan.
And Father James, it's so good to be back in studio with you.
Good to be back. Hi, everyone.
So this is going to be an amazing conversation today. So there'll be a lot of you who are joining us live. We're broadcasting live over Facebook Live. And I know there will be thousands of people joining us later when they download the audio version or the video version of the podcast. But for those of you who are joining us live today, we wanted to do this really intentionally. We know that last time we did a live episode, we had an unbelievable number of people show up and want to be part of a conversation with us. And that was when we actually launched the Unlocking Your Parish book, wasn't it?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, so we're not launching a book today. Instead, we're launching this season of the podcast. And not only are we launching this season, but we get to talk about a couple things that have been on our hearts. And so we're going to be able to dig into a few elements of what's going on in the ministry. And perhaps most importantly, and the thing I wanted us to talk about first, is something called DR20. What is DR20, Ron?
Our third conference where we host the world to come to Halifax, Nova Scotia, share what's going on in the hearts and lives of parishioners in a church just like yours that's gone on mission and is really making a huge impact. And we're so excited to be hosting that with St. Benedict Parish and everyone in the ministry, and I cannot wait.
So, Father James, I can remember this isn't our first Halifax-based conference. In point of fact, we've done it before, right?
This will be our third one.
Our third one. First one was in
2016. Yeah,
20
DR16 we called it.
Yeah, and so DR, of course, standing for Divine Renovation. 16 meaning it was, 4 years ago from, or
It will have been 4 years before this coming conference. Yeah.
It'll be 4 years between our first and the new one. What are some of your hopes for the Divine Renovation 20 conference?
Well, it's fun because, one of the things that we talk about all the time is, and it was Carrie Newhoff who said it, are you married to your method or are you married to your mission? And if you're married to your mission, you continually need to be innovating. Well, with us, as we think about the conference, it's a ton of work. We love it, but it's a ton of work. And what's happening is the Divine Renovation Network is growing to the point where we're running into some issues in terms of space. And it's like, what are we going to do? And then we had to wrestle with the fact that, is this a method now? Are we married to this method, or is it serving the mission? And that was a tough conversation. We really had to be honest with ourselves, and it was up in the air, which is what I love about who we are and what we do. Is we're rigorous about mission, and we wrestled through ideas until we came up with a whole new format for this conference, and we got so excited about it. We actually booked the date for the one that'll happen in 2022, and we haven't done that before. That's how excited we are.
Well, the first conference we did, we weren't sure anyone would show up. I mean, I remember 8 months before we actually we all took guesses as to how many people would show up. I think, Ron, you said 200 or something.
I was the lowest, and I thought I was being wildly optimistic.
I said 600, and 650 people came. And then in DR18, we had 700. We managed to squeeze in some extra people, and it sold out almost a month before. So there will have been a 2-year time gap, and through God's grace, the ministry, this movement has continued to develop. So we came to a kind of like a place where we thought, what are we going to do? Because we can't physically fit people into St. Benedict Parish building anymore. And for us, being in the parish was a real value because we try to celebrate being an incarnational ministry. That is, it's a ministry that came out of the life and the experience of a parish. And there's something about coming into a parish building and saying, oh, they've got cracks in their wall and they've got peeling paint over here as well. And, this is just like my parish that somehow communicates that, hey, maybe this is real. Most importantly, and it's the feedback we got from all the conferences, not surprisingly, it wasn't the talks, it wasn't the music as much as they were appreciated. It was meeting the parishioners.
Yes.
And so these were critical things. But here was the dilemma. The number of parishes that we're walking with, in a sense, and who are engaging in these principles, we could do an entire conference for people who are already on the journey, well on the journey. And that's a particular kind of conference. But one of the great things about the previous conferences is that it helped so many parishes and parish leaders start out on the journey.
Yes.
So what are we going to do? We're going to have two different conferences, one for first time, for new people, and a different conference. We can't have a different conference. So that was the dilemma of planning for DR20.
It's true. And there's another dilemma, and that's more and more dioceses are reaching out to us and say, can you give us a hand? And we're saying yes. And we're recognizing that there's a growing surge of diocesan interest in what we're doing and how we're doing it. And so we've knit that into the format for this conference as well.
You know, we collected great feedback from the DR18 conference here in Halifax, which of course sold out. And so it sold out with, I can't remember what the number of people online was, but it was in tens of thousands of people who had joined us online to stream portions of that conference from, I think it was like 50 something countries. It was unreal, the level of interest. And so, you know, I knew I personally, because Father James and I haven't always agreed on where and how we should do that conference. There might have been a couple moments of you know, disagreement about the best way to embrace people. What I can say is God's used every way that we've approached it in amazing ways. I'm saying the word away and way a lot. Have you picked up on that? Part of the benefit of being live.
Way too much.
Thanks, man. So, you know, what I love about this is we're going to be able to respond to, I think, one of the elements of feedback that we got from parishes that were already on journey, that, you know, they were concerned that, well, I'm not sure if I want to come back again because we've seen these talks, we've been to this event, and so we're putting on an event where they've not seen the content, where they haven't, like this is not a repeat for anybody. For parishes that are on journey with Divine Renovation, parishes that are using the Divine Renovation model, who've been to past Divine Renovation events, oh man, we've got something special for you this time. Yeah. We were so intentional about creating the space for new experiences for Divine Renovation parishes, and not just new experiences, but an opportunity to learn from each other. Because what we've seen globally is we've seen more and more parishes are making amazing strides forward. God's using priests and their teams to do amazing things. And we wanted to be able to create space for them to be featured, to be able to share some of their wins. And that's what's getting me most excited about DR20.
One of the visions you had, Dan, leading into it was almost like a homecoming. You know, and when I remember you sharing that, one of the visions that came into my head in prayer over and over again was when Jesus sent out the 72, and then they all came back sharing their stories, and I could just see a fire in Jesus being so proud of the courage it took for these people to be obedient to go. And I see, you know, coaching into these churches all over the world, I see their breakthroughs, I see their win, I know their struggles, I know how hard it is. And then to come back and be encouraged like a homecoming around that fire, that's how I kind of see it in my head for those folks that are on journey, on the Divine Renovation journey with us in different capacities, is that, come on home, let's just celebrate. I can't wait. It's going to be so cool.
So we just struggle with this because, as we said, that Dan and I sometimes disagreed. Like I was almost like
sometimes
like it was like for me the St. Benedict parish in being there and in experiencing a real parish is so much. It's so important compared to, you know, saying like having a conference in a convention center or something like that. Even if it was hosted by parishioners and parishioners were involved, because in the end, like, if I'm visiting you in the city, I can go out to supper with you in a restaurant, but it's kind of different when you invite me into your home.
Yes.
And we sit down and we have a meal together in your home. I get to know you in a whole new way. And that's what it always was like. So, but it was a dilemma. Do we therefore continue with the limit of 700 people and all of that? And so we prayed about this, and we had a breakthrough moment of how to keep those values in play. And so what we come up with is basically that the conference, the actual 2-day conference, is going to be on the 16th and the 17th, and it's going to be in downtown Halifax at a big center where we can have many, many more people, and actually have people sitting at round tables, even during the plenary sessions with keynote, so that we can have that element of interaction and learning from one another. But at the same time, we also have the St. Benedict parts, because what we're doing is we have a pre-conference day at St. Benedict Parish for anyone who's never had a chance to go to St. Benedict Parish before and to meet the staff and to be there. So, because the thing is, for people who have maybe come to a couple of conferences. They've seen, they've tasted and seen, they've got it. And that might not be as important a thing. But I think it's more important for people at the beginning of the journey. People who are on their own journeys already, maybe not as important. At least that's our thought. And so we have that at the beginning. And then on the Thursday, which is the day after the conference, we're inviting everyone who might still be around to come up to St. Benedict for Mass and to join us for Mass, as well as, of course, coming on the weekend, dropping in the weekend for Mass as well.
Yes.
What I love is that first day, which is aimed at, it'll be content that isn't completely new, right? It'll be content for people who haven't experienced sort of the Divine Renovation conferences. We do a lot of events and conferences. So some of that content won't be completely reimagined. I suspect, because I've traveled enough with Father James, that every time he gets on a stage, there's usually something new. Where'd that come from? So I won't be surprised if there's yet new stuff. But and what I loved about what your vision was for Father James, which is that, for anyone who hasn't had that St. Benedict Parish experience, like, we want to host you, we want to love you, we want you to come and see what's happening at St. Benedict Parish. And what I get excited about when I think about that is there's, people who came to our conference in 2016 and 2018, some of them brought a couple of team members, but some of them didn't get a chance to bring team members. Right. And what an amazing experience it would be for priests and other leaders to come back in 2020, to come to the homecoming, Ron, and to also give the chance for their team members to experience what they would have experienced back in 2018 or what they would have experienced back in 2016 at St. Benedict Parish, where they can really get that level of inspiration that we heard so much from our participants about.
I want them to see how small our parking lot is. Because if we can have a thriving, vibrant church with a parking lot that small with cars parked all over the neighborhood, you can do anything. And sometimes you just have to see it to believe it. But it really is a wonderful opportunity to do that very thing. And that's not the only thing we're going to be having on that day. And so for those new people, come and experience St. Benedict Parish and the conference in that style, in that venue. And for those of you that are further along on the journey, we have a Grow Alpha session going to be taking place that day, being hosted by Alpha International.
Oh, that's going to be such a good event.
So explain what you mean by Grow Alpha. What exactly is that?
So it assumes you're already doing Alpha and you're already using Alpha as a tool. And one of the things that I've experienced in doing Alpha for so many years is I never fully get it right. Or the things that I thought I had right, and then I start to focus on other things, they start to slide. So I'm constantly trying to maximize its impact. And this whole Grow Alpha is designed to help you reevaluate what you're doing, recognize those areas that might need attention again so that things don't slide and that you keep the momentum going of the very tool that's helping to change your culture and bring more and more people to Christ. And so it's a great opportunity to share your experiences with other people that are on the journey.
And that would be a full day as well, right?
Yeah.
So in a sense, if you're in a parish that's been mobilizing on these things for a while, I mean, you could come, perhaps come and join us for Sunday Mass. And on the Monday, if there's any new folks in your team that are with you, they can go off and do the day at St. Benedict Parish, and the other folks can go. I think it's going to be at one of the universities in the city. That's where they're hosting the Grow Alpha Day, and they can go off and be a part of that on that. We're calling it a pre-conference day.
Yep, we're calling it a pre-conference day. But so there's activity all between that Monday through that Thursday at the Divine Renovation Conference. But there's the pre-conferences on the Monday, the post-conferences on the Thursday. Can I just share a brief story?
Yeah.
So the Grow Alpha, I love the way it came together. It was I think it was Elizabeth's idea from our team. And, the challenge we went to Alpha with is we said, look, when we do Divine Renovation conferences, we're going to have all sorts of parishes from all over the world. They're all going to come to Halifax. And what I know is if they're on the Divine Renovation journey already, I know they're running Alpha. And some of them are actually being coached by members of the Divine Renovation coaching team. So my expectation is they're running Alpha pretty well. And so I remember saying to the AI team, the Alpha International team, I said, can you come in and what does a masterclass look like for Alpha? What is next level? I want you, Alpha, to tell me what is possible. I want these parishes to be equipped to have the best possible Alphas anywhere in the globe. And are you guys up for that challenge?
That's cool.
And they took that back, right? And they pulled in their best minds around the training, and then they came back and said, we're gonna call it Grow Alpha, and this is what it's gonna look like. So I'm jacked to see what they put together because I think it's gonna be wild. And I love that in the Catholic Church we're saying we can continue to up our game on this.
Yes.
We can continue to up our game. We're not done yet. And so I'm excited to see what those parishes are able to learn from that event. Now, talking about the event, I know there's been questions about, about when the event's happening, what structures there are. But Mike, do we have a question that came over social about some of that stuff?
We've got a lot of people on social right now asking a lot of questions. And the first and most important is, when can people register? When will registration be open for DR20?
Wow, that's a question we've been getting for months.
We've been asking it internally.
Father James, do you have any idea when people are going to be able to register for DR20?
Now?
Right now.
I think registration is, as soon as we started this podcast, I think registration opened. I wonder who will be the first person to register.
First person to register, yeah. So registration launched roughly 10 minutes ago. And that's, we're excited that people are going to be able to start registering right away. And so if you haven't gone to the divinerenovation.net website in the last 10 minutes, now is your chance. So if you go to divinerenovation.net/DR20.
Well, that's only if you want to be the first person. I mean, otherwise, just chill, have some coffee, and you can register when this is over. But we can give you a little preview of the website. So if you go to just our divinerenovation.net page, there is a link to the conference, or you can just go to divinerenovation.net/DR20, and it will take you to our registration page. And I think it's up on the screen now.
Yeah, for those who are watching, you've been able to see some video as it goes. And now there's a few things happening at this conference that are different. In fact, there's so many things happening at this conference that are different. Among the things, when you go to that registration page, you'll find the registration experience is quite a bit different, because we've gone an extra mile to try and be hospitable and make things easy on our guests. And so you can actually book to your lodging through the conference site now. Before we would usually point you to a couple different hotels in town. Mm-hmm. Now we've actually set it up so you can actually book your lodging. Now your lodging, and this I'm actually excited about this, so I'm going to win you all over to it, because it's gotten me pretty excited, and I love what the team has done on this. Because the majority of the conference, the 2 main days of the conference, are in downtown Halifax. Mm-hmm. And you'll see a map on that website as well to give you a sense of the lay of the land, where St. Benedict Parish is versus where the conference is happening, which isn't a far drive, but it's not a walk. You're not going to be able to make that walk between the parish and downtown. But because it's downtown, we're hosting it in partnership with one of the universities down there.
My alma mater.
Ron's alma mater. Ron, why were you not more involved in the planning? You could have got us a even better relationship. But what I'll say is that we have gotten an amazing deal on rooms, unbelievable room rates if you stay on the university campus. Now, of course, this is not the Hilton or the Hyatt or what I don't know what fancy hotels are out there. I don't usually stay at them. This is not your fancy lodging. But I've actually stayed not at your alma mater, but I stayed at one of the other universities downtown before, and it's actually great. I have no problem with it. It's a comfortable environment. And what it's doing is it's helping to keep those costs low for people coming to town. It's saving you hundreds of dollars by staying downtown, right on the university campus. And we went one step further. You can actually book your meals through the website when you register now. So you're going to have your breakfast at the
you get your breakfast if you book in the university, you get your breakfast, and then you get your lunch at the conference. And you can book supper if you want. I mean, you might also want to not book supper and go out with friends to
downtown
one of the local places.
In downtown Halifax,
and connect with people. Kind of actually recommend that, but it can be one-stop shopping if you want that. And Dan, St. Mary's University, actually, it's not a Catholic university anymore, although it still bears the name. But it actually was founded by our diocese way back in a different era. And originally it was the Diocesan Seminary, which then moved to its present location, and now it's sadly completely secular. But nevertheless, it's a part of the history of Halifax. And so it's fairly close to the main conference center. It's probably about a 15-minute walk.
Yeah,
it's about
a beautiful walk too.
And then St. Mary's Cathedral is about a 15-minute walk from the conference center as well. And on the first day of the actual conference, on the Tuesday, so we've got the pre-conference day, and then we've got the Tuesday, the conference proper opens with Mass at the cathedral, I think at 8:15 in the morning. So it's an early start, but we've got a full day ahead of ourselves. We're going to celebrate the Eucharist, and then we're going to walk down to the Kennard Center, pray for good weather, and have some coffee before we get started. But here's the thing, for the breakout sessions in the afternoon, there's going to be 2 sessions in the afternoons. Some of them will be in that area around the center, but some will be back at St. Mary's, so it'll be another chance to walk up there as well. So it's fairly well concentrated there in that area.
It's such a beautiful area of our province, like the downtown Halifax. You get the waterfront, easily walk down from St. Mary's Basilica to the waterfront over to the conference center, which is just to die for.
You can walk on that boardwalk to get from
and then in through the south end to get to the university, the big beautiful trees, lovely area. You're just gonna love it.
I know a lot of people try and find time to see Halifax when they come to Divine Renovation conferences. And now you can't help but see Halifax because we put it right downtown. And so it gives you a chance to experience the sights and sounds of downtown Halifax.
Dan, to go back to the accommodation piece, say for instance, someone, I think we price it out, if someone was flying in on Saturday, like say you got a flight to land in Halifax on Saturday, and so that you could come to St. Benedict on Sunday and get the pre-conference day, the conference Tuesday, Wednesday, and even stay for the post-conference event. What was that overall accommodation price? It was
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Ridiculously low.
It was ridiculous. It was hundreds of dollars less.
$350 or something for all those days, and when that's Canadian dollars.
That's Canadian dollars.
So it's like $5 a night US.
Yeah.
So we're really hoping that these options, I mean, of course, people can stay anywhere they want, but hopefully that this will make it easier for you to do it. Because, of course, for us, going off-site, there is the extra expense with going to a kind of a more of a conference center and all of that. So it's a give and take. So hopefully this will make up for it.
And I think that bears mentioning, like, just because we've made it easy for you doesn't mean you have to choose the easy path. There are lots of hotels because we're downtown.
Choose the narrow door.
Yeah, there's lots of different ways that you can stay in Halifax, and there's hotels that if you'd like a more comfortable experience, or you just would feel more comfortable in a hotel setting rather than staying on a university campus, then those options are absolutely available to you. However, for those people who choose that path, you really need to be booking early because it's summertime in Halifax, and this is a well-known tourist destination. Cruise ships come in, the place fills up like crazy, and so I would encourage you, if you're planning to stay not on campus, you're going to want to be booking a room in downtown Halifax at one of the hotels, because otherwise you might find yourself wondering if you could sneak into the university campus. But yeah, I'm so excited for just how smooth this registration process looks to be this year. It's really going to be an easy way for teams to be able to book themselves and get all those costs up front. It is a Canadian dollar, and I think for everyone who isn't in Canada, that means it's a huge win, because I know the last time I was looking, our dollar ain't doing that great. So
it's Canadian dollars with Canadian taxes.
Yeah, true enough.
So we do have the tax thing, and there is a fee for the registration process. It's fairly nominal, but here's the thing: it really in that one page, everything short of booking your flights. You can book the options, the pre-conference options, the post-conference options, the main conference, your living accommodations, and even your meals for lunch. There's all kinds of options I had never heard of.
Oh my gosh, yeah, the meal options. That was
particular
hilarious.
Sensitivities. Anyway, when you go on it, you'll see what we mean. It's quite funny.
Yeah, we're really able to curtail the menu to meet any dietary requirements in a way that I didn't know there were that many dietary requirements. That was quite crazy.
I learned some new words.
Yeah. One of the other things to think of, because you'll be in downtown Halifax, there's all sorts of other places to visit and eat. I mean, we've got the most pubs per capita in Canada. And so this is your opportunity to experience the most pubs per capita in the entire nation of Canada. And what I love, because I do have that homecoming image in my head too, Ron, where, we're going to see friends that we've met at other events, other conferences, people that have been coached by us, and then we're going to be meeting new friends. And it's just going to be this amazing community coming together, global community of leaders that are on mission, that are looking to change what's happening at their parish for mission.
And I think that's one of the key differences. When I think back to DR16, the very first conference we have, basically it was the community of St. Benedict Parish sharing our joys and struggles, our failures and our successes. We were sharing our stories and our story. And 2 years later in DR18, it still was St. Benedict Parish hosting the event. But what was slightly different is that we had a number of parishes who were moving through the first stage of their own journey and were beginning to have their own stories of transformation. And now, another 2 years later, the community has grown so much, and there are parishes now that are that are doing some things better than we are. And so it's the whole color of the event has changed to not be so much about, come here to learn our stories, but let's gather a community of people together who come from around the world, from very different contexts, who have their own learnings and their own wisdom and their own experience and they're going to bring their own contribution to this. And that's why, moving to a round table format is going to be so significant for us, is because we have a dream and a vision that the Lord is going to work in and through this movement and continue to spread it throughout the world.
And it's a chance for those parishes to be a blessing to each other, right? And it's owning this mission so fully that we're trying to create a space where they can be intentional about blessing others with what they've learned as they've gone on this journey. Questions continue to come in via social media and the chat room. Mike, why don't I throw to you and we can see what else you've got on the play over there.
Thanks, Dan. One of the things that people have been asking about is how to get their parishes involved and these sorts of things. So the question that we have right now from social is, are there any things an individual layperson can do to try to interest their parish leadership into investigating divine renovation?
I've got an answer. I don't know if you want me to jump in. I want to jump in. Let me jump in. Okay, I'm going to jump in. Here's what I've seen that's been really exciting. The Divine Renovation 2016 conference, and then again in the 2018 conference, I saw those as amazing igniters for passion in the priests that showed up. So what I would say to the person asking, well, how do I get my parish on board? What do I get? I'm like, man, there is no better opportunity than actually the Halifax conference, because the Halifax conference was for so many people. It really opened up their minds and their hearts to what is possible if we embrace the Holy Spirit and actually be intentional about mission. So my answer to the question is, you got to get them to the the Divine Renovation 20 conference. There is, in my experience, no greater opportunity than what happens through with the power of the Holy Spirit at that event.
I've seen so many people witnessed, like I run into them years later and they're doing great things and I get so excited. It's like, wow, what got you excited? I was at that conference in 2016. It's like, I didn't know, because of course we didn't know anybody back then. Everybody was a stranger to us then. And then what that kicked off globally in all the coolest places was so amazing. And so I agree. The opportunity, I think, is the other thing I think about is, the book. If there's still lots of people who haven't read the book Divine Renovation. There's also videos that you did with Peter Herbeck, and I think they can go to our website and look at those 15-minute videos. And if that doesn't stir your heart, you probably don't want to come. Honestly, if your heart's that dead, go to the hospital. But spiritually, if that's going to awaken you, and if you want to see what it really looks like in the eyes of real people, then come. Because it's going to transform your life. And God's in the life transformation business, and so are we. And so come and give it a try. Come and see.
I think another key element is don't come alone. I think what we saw most effective, not just at the DR 18 and 16 conferences, but at all of our events, is bring a team. Because the experience is completely transformative and different if you've got a team with you.
At least bring one other person for sure. Don't come alone, because you have this incredible experience, and this has happened. This can happen anywhere. And how do you process that? How do you begin to communicate what you've experienced? When you've got someone else, at least you've got a bit of that. The best thing, come with 3 other people. Come with a team of people, and you can really spread your wings when you're here and go to different workshops and soak in as much as you can. And the relationships that you form with that team will change your life as well. Just being together for those days with your key people and journeying through that experience and unpacking it together, it's amazing.
I remember a number of years ago, you convinced me against my will to go to a conference in the UK. And I say against my will, I'm only joking half. And I went, and it did transform me. And I was so transformed by the conference myself that I said, I'm going to get as many parishioners as possible to come to the, and so people of influence, people that are key leaders. I think we had 16 parishioners pay their own way, because people take vacations, for heaven's sakes. Why not come to Halifax for a vacation, take in the conference as part of it? And I would strategically think to myself, if I was a leader in a parish, is how can I leverage this conference to change minds and hearts so that we can have a collective vision that will mobilize us for the next year or two? And so I'd think bigger than 3. That's the kind of guy I am. But I really mean it, because the more people that understand vision can see it, taste it, smell it, the easier it will be to overcome obstacles, because you're going to run into them. If you're going on mission, you're going to encounter resistance. And if you're doing it by yourself, it has a higher chance of wearing you down. When you have a team of people who understand what's possible with just average, normal people like us, then you won't stop at anything. And that's what we want to place in the heart of your parish, that you will not stop at anything until you become missional and see lives transformed in ways you've never seen before.
One of my most favorite moments in all of our conferences, it's been the same moment at both of them, and it's at the very end.
Spoilers. There's going to be people who haven't come.
Yeah, it's kind of in our videos in the past, if you see it, but just the witness of our parishioners who are the ones who help make this happen. And here's the thing. They look just like your parishioners.
Yes.
They're not special. They don't have halos.
They're not all 22 on the cover of magazines.
22.
Yeah.
They're not in what's it called?
GQ.
GQ, the magazine. Like, they're normal people, like mixed ages, and they're ordinary people who God is able to do extraordinary things through. And that's what's so hope-giving. It's like, oh my goodness, like maybe God can use us as well like this. That's our earnest hope that's what will happen. And one of our problems often in the Catholic Church is that a lot of our people don't get out of the box enough to even begin to glimpse other possibilities. I heard someone this past summer say that the church suffers from IDD, imagination deficit disorder. and part of our problem is we can't imagine a future because of our own experience just puts limitations on it. And whether it's coming here and hearing the stories and the testimonies and being inspired, or connecting with other parishes who are, again, in very different contexts, are beginning to mobilize and experience the same fruit, then it's like, okay, so maybe this isn't just some historical accident in this corner of North America. Like, there's something here that I can learn from and apply and take home. And when your key people get that, it's a game changer. You've got like more engine power than you've ever had before when you return to your parish.
What I love is both of you are talking about the importance of people and team and volunteers. And Mike, do we have any questions that have come in around people and volunteers and team?
I'm starting to wonder whether Father James is also following along and seeing these questions as they come through. So one of the questions that we have is, will you still be using volunteers from the parish this year?
You betcha.
Yes, absolutely.
It wouldn't be a conference.
We're gonna need even more.
That's true. That's true.
What are some of the ways that people experienced St. Benedict parishioners last time?
Just the hospitality, people picking up people in different hotels, being in the lobbies, welcoming them. After some of the main sessions, literally, people came out and parishioners were lined up like taxi cabs way up the street, offering people drives to go in anywhere they wanted. On-site hospitality for coffee breaks, directing people at the different venues, at the church, out at the movie theater, because we rented out a movie theater for all of our workshops. So and again, as they're driving with parishioners themselves, telling the stories of their own conversion, their own transformation, how God has worked in their lives. And the fact that we had 350 volunteers, and we're a parish of 1,400, and people were like amazed at that. It's
taking
like
vacation time off work, because this is through the week. So they're literally using their vacation to be a blessing to the guests that are around the world. Just so much generosity, and that's what Jesus inspires in us. That's what the Holy Spirit calls us to, and that's one of the other things I love about our conference is that we make time to experience the power of the Holy Spirit as a part of all those other learnings, and you get to see it in the eyes of our volunteers, and it's unmistakable.
Yeah.
I think for so many, some of the most powerful testimonies weren't necessarily the ones that were up on stage, but the ones that happened in the car when they were being, chauffeured by a parishioner who just wanted to give their night that night to driving people around. Yeah. I think some of the most powerful stories were. I can remember one guy. I can't remember who the parishioner was, but if they're watching, I'm thinking of you. I know there was one parishioner who ended up driving his pickup, his guest, to Truro because they needed to get out to Truro.
An hour away.
Which is an hour away. Yeah.
So, but I mean, that's the level of dedication and service that we saw from St. Benedict parishioners who just wanted to love the people who had come to Halifax to experience the Divine Renovation Conference. It's hard not to get excited when you see that kind of passion.
Actually, last night I was speaking at a parish in our diocese, and they were telling stories of DR18, and they said they were out in Montana's for lunch when the place was invaded with all these priests and nuns and people, and they were like, "What's going on here?" And there was a group of Germans sitting behind them, and they found out they were at the conference. No, they're from another parish, but they got up and paid their meal. And when the people found out, they totally freaked out, and they handed her a gift of rosary beads, which she still had in her pocket. So, hey, if you're listening and that was you, thank you for that. But what an amazing story! It blew me away. So it's just that, again, hospitality from, people of Halifax. I think we're a fairly hospitable bunch. So that was a great story as well.
It's inspired so much hospitality. One of the things that we did last year around June was this DR Open House, this Divine Renovation Open House, where some of the churches that are being coached in our leadership network hosted a conference of their own, smaller scale, for folks in their diocese or around.
In fact, the final parish is doing theirs tomorrow.
Is it? In Australia?
In Australia, yeah.
That's great. Well, God bless you guys. And so what's so cool about that is they were so inspired by the hospitality they experienced at St. Benedict. You want to hear some of the stories that they were doing in terms of hospitality and how they went above and beyond and how engaging that was, because all of the people who hosted those conferences themselves locally, those DR open houses, said the same thing. Their volunteers rallied to be so generous and radically hospitable, and the guests were so moved by that. So this movement, it's so beautiful. My hope is for those people in the network, that they use this tool of the conference at DR20 as an invitation for those in their diocese to come and see, to just really reach out to those people around them who might still be sitting on the fence. Is this real? Is it possible? Do I have the energy? Whatever that looks like, and invite them to not just your parish, but your diocese. Take this opportunity to say, just come and check it out. Quit being Mr. Grumpy Pants. let's go figure this out and see it for ourselves. And my hope is that will pay big dividends for a diocese.
I want to mention, just because I every year that we've done a Divine Renovation Conference here in Halifax, we've had what can be awkward and somewhat sad conversations with people who aren't able to get in. So if you're considering coming to the conference, I know it's there's an early bird pricing. Take advantage of the early bird pricing. However, don't miss out on your opportunity to come. I don't want you to be like, oh, well, we thought we had more time, or I was still trying to work on bringing these 3 people. Just take advantage of the opportunity while tickets are available. Book as soon as you can, because, what we know from experience is when we get to 1 month out or 2 months out, we end up getting phone calls and emails saying, hey, can I get 10 tickets for my parish? It seems like I can't get them on your website right now. It's we can't fit everybody. And while we've expanded to allow for day 2 and 3 to have much more space, it's not going to be the same for day 1 and day 4. And so please book early, especially if you're planning on bringing a few people with you. Take the opportunity to get your tickets early, and don't put it off. Don't delay. And so, we're trying to incentivize that by giving the early bird pricing, but also I just recognize that we have a history of selling out. And so I don't want you to miss out on that opportunity. Now, we haven't spoken a lot about day 4.
I was hoping you were going to say that.
So, Father James, I would love, there's a couple things happening on day 4. Very briefly, one of them is Run Alpha. So Alpha's masterclass is happening on that Monday, day 1. And then Alpha on day 4 is the Run Alpha course, which is for those who are new to running Alpha, or maybe have just started, or looking to get brushed up on the basics of how to execute Alpha with excellence. So that's what day 4 is, and that's great for parishes who are newer on the journey, or who have team who are newer on the journey that they want to expose to that level of how to execute Alpha well, which is different than the Monday, which is the master class of you're really upping your game at Grow Alpha. But that's not the only thing happening on day 4. So, Father James, why don't you talk to me a little bit about the other event that's happening on that post-conference day?
Well, first of all, as we've already mentioned, we want to try to maximize the touching points with St. Benedict Parish. And so we're inviting the folks who are going to be at least out there in the afternoon or for the rest of the day to join us for Mass first. There'll be a coffee social, but after that, we're actually hosting the rest of the morning through to 4 o'clock in the afternoon for diocesan personnel. So for diocesan leaders, bishops, priests, staff members who work at the diocesan level, because one of the big challenges that we're facing now throughout the world, especially in Europe and North America, is the whole question of diocesan restructuring. I mean, dioceses everywhere are grappling with this, and it's a chance to bring people together, those who have already been on this journey, and to share learnings and to work at this together to try to learn and support one another, because this is a huge issue now facing the church. So that's going to be on Thursday afternoon, a chance to discuss, to share, to learn, to pray together, and to encourage one another.
One of the things that you say, Father James, sometimes one of the biggest one of the limitations to a missional parish it is a maintenance diocese.
Yes.
And so we want to inspire dioceses just like we inspire parishes. And there are things that are specific to a diocese, and we want to unpack those and inspire you in a way that you can realize that it's possible. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to workshop that. We're going to do some really fun things with you guys. So again, encourage the bishops to come with an open mind and an open heart, because if you're struggling with things, and we know you are, then why not let's start to unpack some vision things. That
our ecclesiology is such that, there are no independent parishes. We're not congregationalists, so that the parish always has a bearing and an orientation towards the diocese, towards the bishop, of course. And so you can't do it independently. And so how does that work out? How does a parish that's mobilizing for mission relate in a healthy way to the diocese? Yes. How does the diocese support that while encouraging all the other parishes? What are the kind of policies and mindsets and things that we do without question that we need to begin to question? How do we begin to do that differently, for sure?
Because dioceses are no different than parish priests, and that parish priests have people in their church that are willing to innovate, happy to jump on board. And then you have people that are a little skeptical, and then you have people that are cynical. You have that all in a parish. Yes. Like, that's normal. Well, it's no different for a bishop in their diocese with the priests.
That's right.
And so how do you deal with that? We can't treat everybody the same way, because what ends up happening is we go at the pace of the people that kick up the biggest stink, or that, and it's like, how can we free ourselves from that to run towards mission and be fruitful in ways that we've not seen, because our generation is begging for it, because the church is under attack.
Yep. I think we've been blessed as well. When I think back to past Divine Renovation conferences, we've been blessed to have a lot of diocesan teams come out.
Yes,
I've had the privilege of sitting down with them and to meet many of them. And I also know last DR conference, you did a workshop with John Stevens, didn't you?
Yes.
And so that was well attended.
It was called Us and Them.
Oh, that's right.
I've been on
name.
both sides of that. I've been on the us versus them in terms of it being leading a parish and leading parish renewal and feeling the tension. And now I'm that guy. Now I'm the guy that works downtown,
causing the tension.
Work for the bishop.
Causing
now
the tension.
So I'm experiencing it. I'm experiencing it from the other side as well. And there's a lot of things we need to learn and ways that we need to grow together to support one another. So,
and what's exciting too is, because we've been at this for a while now, we've been working with some dioceses. We've been working with some priests who, like yourself, are Episcopal vicars for certain portfolios for their diocese. And so we've got some cool success stories. We have some cool learnings from people we're working with already. Yeah. And so for them to be giving witness and testimony to how some of these principles are coming to life in their diocese, can't wait till people share those.
It's going to be great.
I know.
Because that's the thing, whether it's the frontier of parish renewal and the different contexts that parishes find themselves in, with multi-sites because of restructuring in rural areas, urban and suburban areas, we're all on a learning journey.
Yes.
We're all learning, and we're all learning what it means to live out a particular principle in a particular context, and that's where we need to connect with each other.
So true. I think to myself about, think about parishioners coming to a conference without their priests. Sometimes what can happen is they can get really excited, go home, and that can be a tension that develops between the priest and their parishioners, and that always saddens us, and that's why we always make sure that you're coming with your priest or with your priest's blessing. Yes. And I'd say the same thing with diocesan staffs, because I saw some of those people from our first conference say, diocesan staff saying it was the best conference. I heard that so many times, the best conference they've ever experienced in their life, which I was really taken back by that. We certainly poured our best into it. But they said because everybody was on the same page because of the Divine Renovation book. And so there's so many of these principles that have seeped in through videos and other methods, the podcasts, that people, this language is starting to seep in. So when they get here, it's like supercharged. And I saw people diocesan staff go back and try to share this with their bishops with little success. And that's how disappointing that is. And so, I hope that more, because we've had plenty of bishops come. And I hope even more come
a few bishops come, a few bishops.
I hope even more come. Come and come and see. Because, boy, I'll tell you, if we get unified around vision and we recognize that things are possible and happening, we need dioceses to take the lead, just like we did need churches to take the lead. We need.
And don't miss the opportunity, because it's going to be 2 years till you get to it again, right? I mean, because I think of what I know of many of the dioceses who showed up, and I've gotten to know some of the teams that came to visit us, is that, part of it's they're sniffing around. Like, was this Divine Renovation thing for real? And they're coming in and they're going, oh my gosh, it's totally for real. And then they're going back to their home diocese, but it's hard to communicate that experience. So I would encourage people who are in that circumstance, like, to try and get the bishop, to try and get senior leaders from their diocese. And what about priests? Should they be encouraging their bishop to attend?
Sure, I would.
Will you be encouraging your bishop to attend?
Yes.
And your bishop has come.
Yeah, he's going to be there.
That's awesome.
Excellent. Now, I feel like I'm neglecting the various questions and chats that are coming in. So, Mike, make me feel not so bad about the way that I'm engaging with the online audience. I know there's questions coming in. Is there one that we've got that you want us to deal with?
First off, Dan, don't feel bad. You're doing fine. We've been having some great conversation about here. Everyone's super excited. One of the things that people are asking about and are really excited about is who will be speaking at DR20.
All right.
Ron Huntley.
Woo! Father James Mallon.
We always have a mixture of our own folks, so myself and Ron and Father Simon will be doing keynote addresses, but also we're going to be hearing from a couple of outside folks. We're going to be hearing from Dr. Mary Healy, who is an amazing speaker and presenter. She's a professor of scripture, passionate about the new evangelization, and we're incredibly blessed. We asked her to pray about coming and speaking at our conference, and she didn't pray for too long, and she responded very, very quickly, because she's been a great supporter of parish renewal and divine renovation. And our other outside speaker is a theologian, a missiologist called Alan Hirsch, who is a great friend of our ministry. Alan is from an evangelical background. He's an incredible thinker. He's one of the most creative thinkers I've ever met, and he's reading a lot of Catholic theology these days. He loves Hans Urs von Balthasar, and he's always sending me these brilliant quotes. And Alan Hirsch, I could sit at the guy's feet and just he challenges me. His insights are rich, and many of you are familiar with APAST. Well, Alan's ministry was the one that developed APAST. And so he's going to be speaking around a theme around APAST. That's the apostle, prophet, evangelist, shepherd, teacher giftings that we find in Ephesians chapter 4, and how by the church leaning into all of these charisms and giftings or ministries in a way that's how the church moves towards maturity and to the full stature of Christ. So Alan has a love for unity. He's got a love for the Catholic Church, and I'm so excited that he's coming to be with us. I thought that was a big win when he said yes to come and talk to us. As you know, unity is a big theme for us. In the very first Divine Renovation Conference, we had a vision that this would bring together Catholics and non-Catholic Christians. Because here's what I really believe, that if you think about the traditional divides in the Church of Christ, between the traditional one being Catholic and Protestant, if you think of that as a horizontal line, I think that what's happened in the last 20, 30 years is like the line has shifted to becoming a vertical line.
Okay.
And the difference is missionary, non-missionary. Are we going to be about the Great Commission, about making, forming, equipping, and sending disciples, or are we passive religious consumers? And I think you find Catholics and Protestants and even in the Orthodox tradition,
Yes.
in every Christian tradition, you find people on both sides. And, here's the thing. The core dynamics and challenges or principles around making disciples, evangelization, forming disciples, equipping disciples, and serving disciples, there might be some differences in there. I mean, for as Catholics, we've got the whole sacramental thing that's a part of that. But you boil down underneath it, there's not a lot of basic difference in terms of, and when it comes to those core tasks. So we can learn from each other. We can learn so much from one another. And so we've got a hope that many non-Catholic Christians will join us. We've always had a good-sized group of non-Catholic Christians. We always have non-Catholic speakers, which demonstrates that commitment to unity and that belief that we're mutually enriched. And as we come together, the more closely we come together around Jesus as Lords, the more close we come to one another. And that's not about denying our differences or anything like that. We're not talking about that, but we come together to learn together. So our hope is that non-Catholic Christians from a variety of backgrounds will come and join us. So that would be amazing, because the overall theme of the conference is actually on unity. Unity that is the fruit of mission, and unity for the sake of mission as well.
Amen. One of the things I'm mindful of is that we're talking a lot about the Divine Renovation Conference. There's a couple other things I want us to make sure that we hit today. Sure. But before we move on I wanted a couple things. I know Mike is desperate to get another question into this podcast, so I'll throw it to you in a second, Mike. But before I do that, I want to reflect on just something. For someone listening, this is not us trying to promote the conference. Like, it's not like, hey, we're trying to promote and sell you a conference. Not at all. Our ministry exists to inspire and equip parishes. And the conference is an amazing way. It's an amazing tool that we're trying to give you to help equip your teams at your parish. And so please see this in this conversation in that light, that we go down this path on the Divine Renovation Halifax Conference. We go down that path intentionally because we know and we've seen the fruit of this conference and the way it equips leaders, the way it equips priests, the way it equips lay leaders to do amazing things at their parishes. And so please use this conference as a tool in your arsenal as you're trying to get your parish to move on to mission. With that said, Mike, I want to throw over to you before you throw something at me to make sure we get another question in.
I am anxious. I think probably the rest of my day will be spent answering some of these questions. There's been a lot going through, but one of the things is, as we talk about what the different parts of the conference will be, is if I'm a lay leader without a particular leadership role in my parish, can I attend the Thursday session for diocesan staff?
Father James, what would you say to someone asking that question?
I would suggest that if you have no role in your diocese right now, go and speak to your bishop and see if he will delegate you to be a diocese, on behalf of your diocese, to go and to learn and to come back. If you don't have that, in a sense, delegation, or if you're not missioned, in a sense, by your bishop, I would say probably it might not be the best. I would suggest maybe attend the Alpha event. That might be a bit better for you. So
good advice.
I think it's important to have that to recognize the leadership role that the bishop has, and to really, and that's we want kind of people who are there on behalf of their diocese in a kind of a official capacity in some way.
And preferably, my hope is too, because we've seen this before, is diocesan staff teams have come to Divine Renovation, and now we have several of them. That's happened multiple times, and so for them to come together as teams for that day, I think they're going to love it.
Because that'd be great. Because in most dioceses right now, like whole departments of different dioceses are beginning to struggle with they're beginning to say, we've got a bit of a problem. We've got an outdated infrastructure that's dragging us down. We know we have to restructure. What are we going to do? We got to support the priests. We got to support this. How do we go about this? We got to create a plan. Oh my goodness, we don't know what to do. We tried this. People are upset. And you're trying to work this out as a team. So come as a team and interact with other teams, and come and learn from dioceses about what has gone really well and what has not gone so well. And let's see if we can create more of a network together of dioceses who are trying to crack this, because every diocese in the Western world is going to have to deal with this issue in the next 5 to 10 years.
So one of the offerings from Divine Renovation, the one that connects us with the most people, is what we call the Divine Renovation Network. So the Divine Renovation Network, we've got parishes all over the world who are members of the Divine Renovation Network. And through accessing the Divine Renovation Network, you can access all sorts of services and offerings. The one that perhaps is most used, most valuable, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but the one that gets the most play, let's put it that way, is divinerenovation.tv, which is our online video library of coaching videos, which has a lot of you in it, Ron, and it has a lot of you in it, right, Father James? So that's a great place to see all sorts of videos on all sorts of topics. Now, I'm excited to announce that, especially for those of you watching video, you're going to see, in a moment, you'll see the newly redesigned divinerenovation.tv website. So for members who are already in the Divine Renovation Network, I would encourage you to go and take a look. It's more organized, it's prettier, and it's a great way to engage with all sorts of coaching videos that we've created as a team, and we continue to add to. Ron, just very briefly, can you name one or two coaching videos that or series in there that get you excited, that you think would be helpful to parishes?
All kinds. Certainly, the whole Alpha series, there's so many nuances of Alpha that lead it in a direction that it ends up to its own demise. And we really tried to beef up all kinds, everything we've learned, we've packed into that video series. I also think about leadership issues in terms of how to run meetings, how to have one-on-one meetings, how a senior leadership team meeting needs to be run if it's going to be efficient, and that we're holding each other accountable, and there's this cadence of accountability. There's a lot of things around leadership summits and how to have those and what they look like and how to organize. We have stuff on connect groups and when to launch them, how to launch them, what they're for. We're just trying to pour everything.
And as well, we have our monthly lead, our twice a month lead sessions, which are one version is Ron and I, we host a session on some aspect of parish renewal, and the second session we always have an outside guest or maybe one of our own team members who speaks specifically or is interviewed about a particular topic. And I just looking through the last 2 years, a year and a half or so of these presentations, there's so much rich material in there. I think, Dan, I heard we're close to like 160 different videos or something like this, and I've no idea how many hours of content there is on this. And the great thing about this resource is once you subscribe and get a key to it, you can send out that key to anyone in your parish that you want. Like, in a sense, you could use it minimally, or you could really maximize its impact on your parish and your parish leaders, ministry leaders, staff, even regular parishioners who might be interested.
And leveraging it properly, it's almost the equivalent of 1 or 2 full-time staff positions if you leverage it on purpose to create vision and launch things, and that'll help you with your quality control, make sure your messaging is the same over and over again as you branch out in different areas to bring about renewal in your parish. It really is designed.
That's what I loved about some of what you did, Ron, when you guys were filming the Connect Group one. Was you actually coach into the various roles of a Connect group. So there's a couple ways a pastor might approach launching a Connect group. I might sit down with every single person and go over every single role. Or in this case, you're able to direct your team to the videos where they'll get a coaching video by you, Ron, explaining, okay, so you're now going to be hosting the Connect group. This is what it looks like. This is what I want you to be doing. This is like that. That's a way to free up time for the pastor and the parish priest.
And just in case there's anyone listening who doesn't know what we're talking about, a Connect group is our mid-size home groups for people who have done Alpha, where they go to continue to grow.
Yeah. So part of what the team has done is they've reshaped the series to make them smaller in terms of the way they because some of them were getting very long. The Alpha one in particular had like over 30 videos. It was like, oh my goodness. So they've chunked them out into smaller, more manageable bits. And also, I'm excited to share that starting next week, we'll be releasing the first in the Critical Leadership series. Awesome. And so we continue to add to that library. There was a lot of filming that was done over the summer months. I know with you, Ron, and with other members of our team. The
Foundation series is fantastic. I was watching those videos the other day when I was on the treadmill, and it was like these are really good. and There's another, I think Paul, one of our team members, is creating a whole series on AV and sound mixing and sound systems in churches. I mean, it's like, wow, this is, our vision for this way back was, imagine if we had a 10-minute video for every single possible question that could ever be asked about different aspects of parish renewal. I mean, we might never get there, but that was a part of the vision. So we continue to create new material all the time.
So this is podcast season 6 for us. We don't often talk about the number of seasons we're in. However, this when we do the numbers, so we're looking at podcast season 6, right? We don't talk about it all that much. Welcome to 6. And this is the first episode. So we're live right now, but the episode will actually be released later on. It'll be released on the 17th. So if you're listening to the recording, then you're probably listening to us on the 17th or sometime after that. Following that, of course, we're going to be going into our regular weekly release schedule. However, there's a change this year. So this season, the team has worked hard, and we've learned a little bit from what we did with the summer shorts. So those of you who've been listening to us over the last little while, we've been releasing these summer shorts over the summer months here in Canada. And those have been tremendously well received. We were thrilled to get the feedback that we did from you listeners and viewers. And so what we've decided to do is this season 6, we're going to embrace a briefer model. So the episodes are going to be shorter in length. So it's a 25-minute episode, thereabouts. I mean, we never really follow the time all that closely. So there'll be 25-minute episodes. So as you journey with us on season 6, recognize you're going to be getting something a little different. And so when we have guests on, we'll often be spreading the content from our guest conversations over multiple episodes, 2 episodes, because we still want to get all the same amount of content. We don't want to deprive you of deep learning from our guests, but we do want to make these more bite-sized in terms of allowing you the flexibility of consuming them without having to donate or dedicate, quite so much time. And so that's going to be a shift for you and for us as I think of how are we going to, here we are like an hour right now, how are we going to talk briefly? I don't know that that's our strong suit, Father James.
Well, I think the key thing is we live our values, and that is, again, model our mission. And we're constantly looking at how we've done something and saying, can we make it better?
Amen.
And we're not, we're not going to be hung up and saying, this is the way we've always done it, because we're going to change it. If we think it can be better, we're going to change it, and we're going to experiment. And that's part of the reality of parish renewal or diocesan renewal is we've got to start using the language of experiment because we're not quite sure exactly what is going to be the best way to do it.
And every time we do it, it's just as hard for us. Like we have to fight against those same temptations, and we fight internally. And so it's normal, but we have to push through that with ourselves, with one another, so that we can bring the most value possible and glorify Christ, right? Everything we do.
I just say in time, I know we're probably getting close to time, but just in terms of the conference, regardless of, we'd love for you to be with us, and we would love for us to be able to be with you, because that's what's going to be so different this time around. Like we're learning so much. Last night I had 14 priests on my pastor cohort, and I was just rejoicing at what I was hearing. Like some of the things these guys are doing and what's happening in their parish is absolutely phenomenal. And I just feel so incredibly blessed to be on a journey and feeling like we're a community together, and to come and be together with a community of churches and church leaders that are doing this. But if you can't make it, please pray for us. Please lift this conference up in prayer. Pray for our team. Pray for all of the parishes that are hoping to join us.
With all that said, we are looking forward to being with you again next week, unless you're live, at which point it's next week and a half. But for those of you who are listening to the podcast and the recording, we'll be live releasing our next episode a week from when you're getting this one. I can promise you that this season is going to be amazing. I've already spoken to Sheila. I know that we have amazing guests lined up this season. And so for you to journey with us through season 6, we're excited about what we're going to learn with you and hopefully some of the ways that we can bless you with the learnings that we're hearing from other parishes in the Divine Renovation Network. Thank you so much for being with us today, and God bless.
Thanks for listening. Stay up to date on all things Divine Renovation by signing up for our e-newsletter. You'll receive updates about the ministry, links to videos, and exclusive offers. Visit divinerenovation.net to sign up.
Next week on the podcast.
We encourage everybody to, as soon as the weekend away is done, write it down, share it with your table group, and And in those times where you start to sort of stray, or you think, I don't know, like, was it really that powerful? Was it really an experience? Did I really feel peace? Did I really? Yes, you did, because you in your own handwriting
Right there.
wrote it down. Exactly. And so that begins sort of the way that we would encourage people to share their stories with one another.